So, have you ever felt like your brain is just wired differently? Like you're living in a world that wasn't quite built for you? If that sounds familiar, then this is for you. We're going to dive into what that really means, and more importantly, how you can shift from just surviving to actually thriving. Let's get right into it.
You know that feeling, right? Like you're constantly playing catch-up. You see everybody else, and they seem to have the rulebook, but you're running a totally different operating system. It's not just frustrating, it's deeply exhausting, and it can leave you feeling completely alone.
Yes, the classic. I'm sure you've heard this one a million times. It's what people say when you have a perfectly normal human reaction to something, and it's their way of making you feel like your feelings are the problem.
And then there's this one. This is for everyone out there with a graveyard of abandoned hobbies and half-finished projects. You dive in with all this passion, and then it's gone. The world calls it flaky, but you and I know there's something much deeper going on.
And this is the one that really hurts, because this is where you start to believe it yourself. You internalize all those other labels, and you come to the conclusion that you're just broken, that you're missing that grit everyone else seems to have. But what if that entire diagnosis, that story you've been telling yourself, is just flat out wrong?
See, the problem isn't that you lack grit or focus. The real issue is that we've been trying to solve a hardware problem with software updates, and it was never, ever going to work. This is what I call the skill trap. You know the advice, just toughen up, learn a new skill, take another course, hustle harder. But here's the thing. What good are all those skills if the very foundation you're building on is cracked and unstable? It completely misses the point. Your effort has no structure because the system itself is overloaded.
And this is the big shift in thinking, right here. It's time to stop the self-blame. That feeling of being overwhelmed or scattered or exhausted, it's not a personal failing. It is a completely logical response to a broken system.
Okay, so let's pull back the curtain and reveal the real culprit. It's not you. It's the world's operating system, a system that was built for a very specific kind of person, living in a very predictable world that, well, it just doesn't exist anymore.
The world used to be what you'd call a kind learning environment. Think of a game of chess. The rules are clear, you get immediate feedback, and repetition makes you better. But that's not our world. We live in a wicked learning environment, where the rules are always in flux, feedback is slow and confusing, and the patterns are almost impossible to spot.
This chart really nails it. A golfer operates in a kind environment. The ball, the club, the hole, the rules are set. A firefighter, though, they're in a wicked environment. Every single fire is different. The strategy that saved a building yesterday might be useless today. In our modern world, it's basically a 5-alarm fire, 24/7.
And this, right here, this is the heart of it all. It's an evolutionary mismatch. Your brain's hardware was forged in a quiet forest, where a snapped twig could be the difference between life and death. Your sensitivity was a survival tool. But you're not in a forest anymore. You're in a digital world of constant pings, endless notifications, and high-velocity noise. Of course you feel overwhelmed.
But here's the good news. This isn't a story about a flaw. It's a story about a high-performance engine that's been put in the wrong car. So let's pop the hood and take a look at your brain's true blueprint.
Here's a way to think about it. Most people go through life experiencing the world in standard definition. It's fine, it's efficient. But your brain is recording reality in 8K. You're getting all the data, every pixel, every nuance, every subtle shift in tone.
And there's actual neuroscience that explains this. You have a few hardware upgrades. First, something called low-latent inhibition, which is just a fancy way of saying your brain's spam filter isn't very aggressive. You treat almost all incoming data as important. Then, you've got hyperactive mirror neurons, which means you don't just see an emotion in someone, you literally feel it in your own body. And all that extra input leads to depth of processing. You're constantly connecting everything to everything else.
There's this beautiful metaphor in biology for this. Some people are like dandelions. They're resilient. They can grow anywhere, even in the cracks of a sidewalk. But some people are orchids. They're incredibly sensitive. In a harsh, chaotic environment, they'll wither. And you've probably spent your whole life trying to be a dandelion, right?
Well, here's the incredible twist, and it's backed by science. It's a concept called vantage sensitivity. And it means that while orchids suffer more in a bad environment, in the right environment, a carefully controlled greenhouse, they don't just survive. They bloom with a brilliance a dandelion could never imagine. You don't just catch up, you outperform everyone.
The old world, the predictable world, it wanted I-shaped people, specialists who go deep on one single thing. But our wicked world today, it needs M-shaped people, polymaths who have multiple areas of expertise and, most importantly, can see the connections between them. What the world called being flaky is actually your greatest strength. And that brings us to the most important part of all of this. This is where you take your power back. You're not a victim of your biology. You are the architect of your life, and it's finally time to start designing it on your own terms.
So here's your new mission, plain and simple. Stop trying to toughen up to survive on the sidewalk. You're an orchid. You're not meant for the sidewalk. Your job isn't to change your nature. It's to build your own greenhouse, to create the environment where you can naturally thrive.
So how do we start building 3 simple things? 1. Curate your sensory diet. Be as intentional about the information and noise you let in as you are about the food you eat. 2. Set strategic boundaries. Your new favorite phrase is, "Let me think about that and get back to you." It creates a buffer. It gives you space. 3. Practice job crafting. Start making small, deliberate tweaks to your work and your life to make them fit you instead of trying to make yourself fit them. And I want you to really let this sink in. In a world of high-velocity noise, things like noise-canceling headphones aren't a frivolous luxury. For a brain like yours, they are essential personal protective equipment. You have to protect your system. So we'll end with this. The system, the modern world, it wasn't built for you. And that's okay, because you no longer have to live by its default settings. You now have the permission and the understanding to be your own architect. So the only question left is, what are you going to build?